former UFC world champion. The list goes on and on. My good friend, Mr. Bas Rutten. And we're live.
Howard. Oh, when I got this thing on, I was right away, I was like Britney Spears. You know what the little things are? I wanted to do that stuff. I'm not so good anymore with the knees, so no more Michael Jackson for me. Only listening.
When I called Bas and I asked him to come out, he said, you know, I want to do a demo, but my knees are just really blown out. I said, I can't imagine Bas Rutten not moving around me, Bas Rutten at the Fit Expo.
I will move. It's a moving, walking stairs, going up and down. That's a little painful. It's very painful if you don't have cartilage on your kneecaps, and this knee is bleeding bone marrow, they say. So it's not a fun thing. Apparently, it sounds really easy, and everybody says, "Oh, do a knee replacement." It's not possible. I went to the top guys here in Canada, everywhere. You gotta wait till they find a way to attach cartilage on a kneecap. You know, they say stem cells doesn't work because there's nothing they can attach it to. So they gotta drill a hole right now and then put a Teflon plate on it. But if they drill a hole, your knee becomes 35% weaker. So I'm not gonna do that.
So you might not be fighting anytime soon.
No, I'm not gonna be fighting anymore. Maybe on the street if somebody attacks me.
That's funny that you bring that up. The very first time I ever met Bas Rutten is my dad down here, and we started Bodyguard magazine about 8 years ago. And I kept asking him, can I make it MMA? Can I make it MMA? I just wanted to make it all about MMA. So he let me start sneaking it in, and finally on the third issue that we did, I said, can I put Bas Rutten on the cover? So he said, sure, you call him. And I was like 20 years old, and I started getting scared, like, I can't just call Bas Rutten. It's Bas Rutten. So I called him up, and you said, yeah, why don't you come on down, you know, we'll get the photos. I thought you were giving me the photos.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't a photographer. I didn't know how to shoot photos. So we end up at lunch, and Bas goes, all right, you want to go back to my gym? We'll do the photo shoot? And I was sitting there like, Bas, I don't have a camera. I thought I was going to get beat up. We were wasting his time.
But he's still alive.
Yeah.
He's still alive.
Here we are. Now Bas writes for the magazine, and he's been with us for a long time.
The Lord works in mysterious ways.
Does. You know, when I interviewed you back then, you talked a lot about being a kid growing up. You had a lot of troubles as a kid.
Yeah.
You know, problems. I remember you telling me the story. Tell them the story about how you used to get home from school through the trees.
No, well, I had a horrible skin disease on my hands and in my face and legs and body, so that looked really bad, of course. And needless to say, if you have that, kids are not going to like you, and you're going to be the kid that get bullied all the time. On top of that, I had severe asthma, real bad asthma attacks. Asthma attacks meaning a week in bed, doing number 1 and 2 in bed, eating in bed if I could eat because I couldn't breathe. You know, you're like this 24/7. It's really bad. So I was very skinny, a lot of skin disease, and the only way for me to escape the bullies was we had a forest next to my house, and I would climb in a tree. There was a field going to the forest. There was one row of trees going into the forest. I could step in the first tree, and I would start swinging from tree to tree to tree until I was in the forest. I had to climb over a little horse cabin. And then I had to touch the ground there because there was no trees there. But then I climbed the first tree and I could be off, and nobody could get me. If they would climb after me in the tree, I would start swinging and to go to the next one. And they didn't have the cojones to do that. So one did a long time ago, and it broke. He fell down, almost killed himself, fell his head next to a big rock. And when that story got out, nobody ever did it anymore. So I was always safe up there.
So, when you graduated from being Monkey Boss,
yeah.
When was it that people didn't have the cojones to mess with you when you were on the ground? You started getting into martial arts, and you said that, I believe the story you told me was that you went to a theater and saw a movie.
Bruce Lee, Enter the Dragon. I saw it in '76 in France. I sneaked in the movie theater because I was 17 years and older at the time with my brother. And when I came out, I wanted to be Bruce Lee because, hey, that was the key to my problem. I mean, he could beat everybody up, so I wanted that also. So I begged my parents, please let me do martial arts, but they always said no. They're very conservative. They consider it violence. And I said, no, it's not violence. It's, asking. Finally, after 2 years, when I was 14, they allowed me to do Taekwondo. So I started doing Taekwondo, and about 3 months later, I was beating up the brown belts already. So it went really good. And then I got in a street fight with the biggest bully in town, Shaki van the Head. I still know his name. And they came in a whole group, stand around me, and they started, and I knocked him out with one punch, broke his nose. So now I had to go to the police station. The police showed up at my mom's doorstep. No more martial arts for me. And when I was 20 or 21, when I left the nest at home, so to say, that's where I started doing right away martial arts. Taekwondo. I said, oh, that's only kicking, so let's do karate on the side. But there was not full contact. Let's do Kyokushinkan karate on the side. Then I realized, okay, that's not punches to the face. Let's do Thai boxing. So I did all those sports at the same time, constantly. And once I started Thai boxing, that was my calling. I think 2 months later I had my first fight, which I won, spinning back kick to the liver. That's where the whole liver shot came from. The liver shot actually comes from my first Thai boxing class, because that was the first and only time ever, because I'd never been down to the body in my life after that. But it was the first time in my life I got dropped with a liver shot. And I remember me sitting on the ground, looking up at the guy. It was a Turkish guy from Holland, and I go, oh, what is that? And he says, they call it the lever in Holland. And that's where my love for the body shots was born.
Now, you went on to have a long, great career, some highlight reel knockouts and a lot of great fights. The transition to becoming a coach has, I know, been a little hard. It's hard for a lot of fighters to not be in the cage themselves. But it lets you look at things in the fight from a different perspective. When you take it through that eye, what changes now that you watch martial arts as a coach? And what would you tell people? Maybe you were making mistakes, but now that you watch it as a coach, you see something that can help someone here on how to get to that level without having to make those same mistakes.
Oh, well, 5 years ago I decided to just one day I woke up and I said, I'm not going to drink anymore, because I was quite a partier. And now I realize, I drink a glass of wine here and there. But now I say I could have done that 10 years before that. Because a whole new world opens. I would say to stay away from that. Then I say there's a book called The Alchemist. It's written by Paulo Coelho, and I tell this to everybody. Oh, you know it? It's a great book, and you have to read it. You read it fast. Like I read it on the way over to New York. You read it out in 3-4 hours. But it's got really cool messages inside. It has a way of storytelling that explains to you how the world and the universe and everything works. And it will really help you. I tell all my fighters when they want to train with me, they have to read that book first, because it will set your goals. It's really cool. And then for the rest, I say, shoot for the stars. Because the higher you go, the better it is. I always say, what do you want to have? I say, I want to have $1 billion. They say, so 100 million is not enough. I said, well, if only 10% comes through from the billion, I got the 10 million, 100 million, 100 million. You see, so it's setting high goals, but don't walk over people to get to your goal, and do not forget the people who made you. If you're with a coach who literally made you, you're here for 12 years, and you have the peak of your success, and then suddenly, you say, hey, I'm out of here because maybe it's better for financial reasons or whatever it is. I say, don't do that. Stay with those people, because karma has a funny way of coming back all of a sudden.
When you talk about those goals, I'm very curious, what are your goals now? Like, not just in fighting, but maybe as a coach, business, in your personal life. What is Bas Rutten right now that we have to look forward in the future to see you strive for?
Well, it's the movies. I shot a movie last year with Kevin James, Henry Winkler, Salma Hayek, and myself. We're the lead. Therefore, it's a comedy. It's a mixed martial arts comedy. It's a really good story. It's really good at the screening already. We got high ratings. Actually gave me an agency right away also, so that was really good, because I was still looking for a great agency to represent me. But that's been my dream my whole life. I did comedy shows in Holland. I did comedy martial arts shows for European TV, Dutch TV, you know, always had a fun, you know, to just entertain. And the reason I came to America was to see if I could do something in movie and TV business. And that's where I'm shooting for now. Everything is looking really good, you know, and the first part being a comedy, you know, and mixed martial arts, which two of my favorite things together. So that was a no-brainer for me, and I think people are going to like it.
Now, besides the big screen for the movies, you got a lot of things going on TV. Tell us about that. Your new show's called Punk Payback. We did a segment with Bas for our TV show for H.E.A.T.
Yeah.
I asked Bas, hey Bas, can I come to your house and do an interview for our TV show? And he said, sure. My wife will be there. Just go ahead and go in the backyard. Okay, so again, we're right back to, this is Bas Rutten. Now he just wants me to walk in his backyard while his wife and his daughter were inside. And I asked him, once he got there, okay, Bas, here's what we'd want to film. What would you do if I broke into your house right now and I had one of my friends from the magazine, and, you know, he's going to break in? What happened after that, we weren't allowed to air on TV.
For real. My agent saw it, and he said, you know, it's really funny, but this is going to end up in the court somewhere. The guy's going to say, I learned it from him.
Yeah.
It was pretty, it was graphic.
Yeah, needless to say, don't break into this man's house. But they've toned it down a little bit so that Bas can teach people to do, you know, certain things on the street to defend themselves and everything. They call this show Punk Payback. Tell us about that one.
You really, you know, if you like, a lot of people know me from the YouTube, from the bar fighting video. That's up. If you like that, you're gonna love Punk Payback. It's only that. It's we show footage, security footage of a robbery or a carjack or anything that went bad. You know, I talk about it while I'm watching the video. I say, okay, this is what went wrong. They should have done this. Blah 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 blah. And I say, okay, let's see what I would do. So then we built the same set as we just saw in the video. They put me in the spot of the victim. And then we let the robber or robbers, whatever it is, come in. And then while I'm addressing the camera at home with a smile, I beat the crap out of him. And in a funny way, but everything I show is real. So if I show you a gun defense and a knife, whatever I show, it's real stuff. But I bring it very comedic, I think. There's no preparation, there's no script. They just show me the video and I literally shoot just from the hip. And sometimes, you know, take one is different than take two, take three. You know, it changes the whole time. I just go and then they see what they want to use in editing.
Nice. Now you got your other TV show as well on the home for MMA, H.E.A.T.
Yep.
You host Inside MMA with Kenny Rice. I've been lucky enough to be on the show a couple times. My dad's been on the show. That show has really become a staple in the MMA world for people to find their news. You guys have a lot of fans write in and everything. You know, talk about filming that show every week and some of the guys you've had on.
Well, you name it. Everybody, every single person, top guy, fighter, whatever we had on the show. It's a really good show. If you like mixed martial arts, you want to check this out. If you like mixed martial arts, you have got to get H.E.A.T, which, by the way, is going to change now into Access. I don't know if you heard that. It's going to be a new channel. It's going to be some. It's going to work together with some other great big people. What's his name from the host from American Idol?
Simon Cowell.
Ryan Seacrest.
Ryan Seacrest.
Ryan Seacrest, AEG, the sports club, we're all put together. Inside MMA has a lot of mixed martial arts on TV for free. You know, if your carrier doesn't have it, I would change carrier, for real. I mean, you got live fighting from Japan, you got the K1 championships, you got Dream, you got fighting from Holland, from Russia, all live shows around America. Yesterday was the MFC. I mean, mixed martial arts, a lot. I mean, there's tons of mixed martial arts from around the world, plus Inside MMA, of course. I think it's a great channel. Joe Rogan was on our show, and he says if you're a mixed martial arts fan and you do not have H.E.A.T, you're absolutely crazy. Because it's the home for mixed martial arts. That's how we see it. We actually have the H.E.A.T booth there also, so you can check out the program. So.